Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss. And Meatball is somewhere around here. She has, earlier today it had been raining quite a bit, and she likes to go outside in the rain for some reason. I've never met a cat that enjoys doing that, but she does for some reason. But she's back inside now, so maybe she'll come down and check it out. I think she's upstairs. Today, I am doing a review of a book by Bedrock Press, the crime network Cosa Nostra, and its source book, Orlando's Guide to Organized Crime. Now, I should note Bedrock Press are the publishers of Arrows of Indra. I do not have anything to do with these books. I didn't write them or participate in their creation in any way. I don't make any money from these books, but I do have a book that was published by Bedrock, which still has sales that are generated for it. Arrows of Indra is still selling, and so I have a financial connection with Bedrock. I was not paid to do this review, and I don't think that I will be unable to be impartial. I think I'll be able to give a review that is fair, that will not be particularly affected by the business relationship I have to Bedrock Games. This is actually an older product, and I don't remember exactly why Brendan from Bedrock sent these to me, but he said he wanted me to check them out, and I presumed that he wanted me to review them. So I will. They are not, first of all, they are not OSR books. This is not an OSR RPG. This is a game that is based, this is the actual rule book. Crime Network. This is the source book. And I'm going to mention that the source book is in many ways much more interesting. But Crime Network is a game that is based on the same set of rules as Servants of Gaius and the games that he's done for Wuja type play, whose names escaping, Ogre Gate and stuff like that. And so it's basically a dice pool system where you roll a number of dice. You only worry about the highest result, and you compare that to a difficulty number. Characters basically have, let me see if there's a character sheet back here. Indeed, there is. Characters basically have skills as their abilities, right? Like, so everything is done with the same mechanic, and you don't even really worry too much about the characters. There are no like ability scores, if I remember. Like there's basic defenses which start with a base number, and then you can choose to increase them, and then everything else is done basically by rules. And there's a wound tracker. So this is not my favorite system. You guys all know that I do not care as a rule for dice pool systems. But what I will say is that it's not a terrible dice pool system. Within the realm of dice pool systems, it's relatively good because it doesn't commit some of the most cardinal sins of dice pool systems, which is that, when you have to count successes, or when you have to do re-rolls, or when there's special powers that the range of the dice pool either is too large or too small for. All of that stuff doesn't come into play, at least in this product. So in case you didn't figure it out, in Crime Network Cosa Nostra, you play somebody who is part of a crime family, and there's some guidelines as to how you divide. It's all kind of a point buy system, which is not my favorite. And you have the following of mob structure there. So you have like social ranks or status or literal ranks, I guess, within the Mafia. Respectability is a big deal. It's a one of these special statistics that represents your standing within the family, and also among people who are connected with the family. else was I going to get at here? So you have all of these various skills, equipment. The combat system seems okay. I mean, I've never tried this out myself, but it's not instantly lethal, and also is not ridiculously cinematic. So at least that's the impression that I get from it. Equipment section is kind of sparse. See what else here, if there's anything more I want to talk about here. Okay, so we get to the chapter here in The Way of the Gangster. And there's conversation here about the history of the Mafia. All of this is pretty much historically true, so that's nice. But then later, well, you'll see in a second here. So there's a lot of important details. Like it gets into details about all of the kind of Mafia stuff you'd want to know. And then you get to the Game Master section, and here it's talking about creating a location. Now, here's where it kind of loses me a little, because it essentially suggests you create a made-up city, or a made-up mafia maybe in a real city, whichever of the two. And I mean, I guess that's okay. It gives you some types of mafiosis, NPCs that you could do. The ones that all of these guys from any mobster movie. But I'd much rather use this for a historical, authentic setting, right? Be it in the 1920s or the 1960s or the 1980s, or something along those lines. Story ideas. These are all stuff. Just like Brendan takes stuff from meticulous watching of wuxia films and puts it into his kung fu games. Here, he's very clearly making use of all of the Mafia tropes, and even comes with a suggested viewing and reading section. And it comes with an adventure. And then it comes with this made-up setting, this Bay Bridge. And again, I would say that it would make a lot more sense if you had a setting that was, based on the real, the real historical moments of mafiosi activity. So that's the basic book, Crime Network. Now, here, Orlando's Guide to Organized Crime is, I think, the more interesting book, because it goes into way more detail about mafias and the mafia setting. So most of what you get in this book is something you could take and use it, for example, if you want to run an OSR game that was set with, in a real life setting with mafiosi or something. The structure of the mafia. You could use this as basically both a history source book and a guide for setting material, because here it goes into the real Cosa Nostra, the New York families. These are the real ones. So no made up setting. I think that this is a lot better, obviously. And then it also has, like, not just New York. You've got Philadelphia there. You've got these other variations of the mafia, other types of organized crime groups like the Yakuza, the Triad, the Irish, just Hispanic street gangs. motorcycle gangs. And then you get into stuff about the law, right? So again, you could also use this if you wanted to play a game where you're police or law enforcement that is trying to take on the mafia. So, if you wanted to run like a Sopranos RPG, like certainly you could do that with the Crime Network. But you could also do it with this book plus, any kind of modern setting OSR rules, like, for example, the Invisible College here, where, actually the Invisible College could be really excellent if you wanted to do like an occult mafiosi sort of campaign. and that's not as completely out to lunch as it might seem, because, the history of the Mafia was originally, they were a group that was derived by the Carabinieri in Italy, which in turn were very strongly influenced by Freemasonry. So, the Mafia are a secret society. They're not a magical secret society, not anymore anyways, and they probably never were. But they are a secret society, and undoubtedly they would have they would have a very useful place. You could say, like, if you really wanted to bring that into, okay, who's here? It's Meatball. If you really wanted to bring that into an Invisible College campaign, it would be, it'd be fantastic. Actually, it would really work, I think. Most organized crime groups actually start out from being revolutionary groups, and usually weird revolutionary secret societies, because they're fighting the man, so they have to keep quiet. And so they often will have either a religious or a mystical element to them. I'm talking all over the world. The Triads are exactly the same thing. The Triads started out as a group that was in rebellion against the Manchu dynasty, right? They wanted to restore a Han emperor to the throne of China. And then they ended up becoming the Triads. Same thing with the Mafia, right? The Mafia were fighting in the liberal revolutions of the 19th century. I mean, they didn't call themselves the Mafia, but that was the movement. And when the inevitably, just like the FARC, the Shining Path, right? All of these sorts of crime families, a lot of them start out being some kind of revolutionary movement that then loses its reason to exist, right? As soon as you lose the raison d'etre, then you just turn into a group of mobsters, apparently. So that is, what you can do with this book. Oh, thank you, Meatball. I wasn't sure she was going to get up. And it's got like excellent resources here. Right? It tells you all kinds of stuff about, different typical things that mobsters do, with mechanics for it, obviously, for Crime Network. But you could probably adapt those easily enough if you wanted to use it for something else. The hijack, kidnapping, etc. And it even has, I'm missing a page here. Come on now. There we go. Has an expanded equipment section that has a much better job. Well, not a much better, but a better job than the main book. More game master advice. Talks about infighting. Bedrock game campaigns. So I'm not sure what are the other ones that he was suggesting, but I know Terror Network is one of them. So he probably has the same idea that I'm suggesting with the Invisible College. True crime books, movies, so inspirational stuff, rackets and operations techniques, crews. So this is like putting some mechanics to some of the stuff you can do. Here's the character sheet again. So, okay. Basically, both books are from Bedrock Games. What is it? Why do you insist on sitting on the Invisible College, Meatball? And then putting your tail here. All right. So Orlando's Guide to Organized Crime is the one that has all the kind of historical and real details. Crime Network is the game system that has some important details to it, without a doubt, but has a lot more fiction to it. But it's the main game system. You can check out both of them from Bedrock. And yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm not a huge fan of any dice pool system, but this isn't a bad system. It's a system that he's used in all of his games, and I mean, aside from Arrows of Indra, of course, which is OSR, and it seems to work out okay. But I mainly wanted to point out the utility, especially, which I quite like, of Orlando's Guide to Organized Crime. So be sure to check those out. If they're not to your liking, well, check out my products instead. Check out Arrows of Indra, which is a mythologically authentic East Indian OSR game where you are adventuring in the epic India of the Mahabharata. And it's very cool. Check out World of the Last Sun. I was going to say, like, while you still can, but you'll be able to after also. But before the Gonzo Fantasy Companion comes out, if you don't already own World of the Last Sun, pick up World of the Last Sun. It is an excellent, it's not just a setting book, it's also got tons of stuff that you can just rip off for your own weird fantasy campaigns. But it is also a setting book, and it's my 10-year-long DCC setting. So, you know, it's pretty good, I think. But there's tons of material there that you can use for like weird Gonzo Fantasy OSR. And pretty soon, probably in the next 2 weeks, I hope. Depends on how quickly Drive-Thru gets back to Spectre. I will have the Gonzo Fantasy Companion coming out too, which is essentially going to be a book full of mechanics and generators, random stuff, random tables, monsters, creatures. Like the book sections say, it's going to have people, places, and things. Right? So random generators for underground ancient complexes. It'll have generators for weird fantasy races, generators for pocket planes. It'll have sections about how to, about mutant race characters. It'll have tons of stuff with like magic items and monsters and all kinds of things. So be sure to keep an eye open for that one. But for the moment, World Last Sun has some excellent material that you are bound to be able to use in your fantasy gaming. And of course, I'd say check out Meatball, but you can't buy Meatball. Only I get to have Meatball. You have the Invisible College here, currently obstructed by Meatball, which is a fantastic modern occult conspiracy RPG with a magic system that is based on real occultism and lots of stuff about secret societies and all that. So be sure to check out the Invisible College. It's all three of these are bestsellers. So check all of those out and check out all my other games. Your support allows me to continue spending my time making these videos. And also, if you enjoy the review videos, then please share them, because review videos tend not to get quite as many views as my regular videos. So the more that you share them, the more that encourages me to do them more often. I've got a big pile of review books coming up, but share them so that they get out there. Spread the word, share the video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the like button, all of that stuff. That's everything for today. Currently smoking Lorenzetti Solitario Egg plus Cornell and Deal's Old Joe Krantz.